Attention, you're about to hear a true story, a story that remained hidden for decades, an account based on rare documents, forgotten testimonies, and files that nearly disappeared. Before we begin, leave a comment telling us where you are watching from. And if you appreciate historical stories like this, subscribe to the channel. Now, turn up the volume, turn off notifications, and come with me on this investigation. The box arrived at the National Archives in 2003. Weathered, dusty, unmarked except for a faded military designation. For decades it had been stored in a government warehouse, forgotten among thousands of similar containers. No one had requested these files in 60 years. No historian had examined them. No family member had inquired about their contents. Inside lay the records of a unit that official military history had nearly erased. Operation Mountain Shadow. February 1944, the Italian Alps. The archivist who first opened the box was Catherine Simmons, a 30-year veteran of document preservation. She had handled thousands of World War II records, but these papers made her pause. What she found contradicted the official record. What she uncovered would rewrite a chapter of military history, a chapter about men who fought for a country that refused to acknowledge their achievements. The first document was a mission report, classified top secret, until 1997. The paper had yellowed, but the words remained clear. The typewritten text began simply, "On the night of February 16th, 1944, the 1st Special Service Unit, comprised of 28 men under the command of Captain Robert Wilson, successfully captured the Italian mountain fortress at Monte Cassino without casualties." The strategic position had previously been deemed impregnable. What made this report remarkable was what followed. A handwritten note in the margin from General William Harrison: "Reassign credit for operation to the 4th Infantry Division. No photographs or press." Catherine checked the official military history. The 4th Infantry Division had indeed received credit for the capture of that strategic mountain position. Their assault was described as a frontal attack with heavy casualties. Medals had been awarded, recognition given, but according to these documents, it never happened that way. The 1st Special Service Unit that actually completed the mission was never mentioned in any public record. Their achievement had been erased, and Catherine soon discovered why. A personnel roster was attached to the mission report. Every soldier in the unit was listed as Negro. In 1944 military parlance, this was an all-black commando unit, a unit whose existence challenged the prevailing military doctrine that black soldiers were unsuitable for combat, much less elite operations. The box contained more than official records. There were personal letters, photographs, training evaluations, and most valuable of all, the journal of Captain Robert Wilson, the unit's commanding officer. His first entry was dated June 12, 1943. "Received orders today to form Special Operations Unit. 28 men selected from the 92nd Infantry Division, all colored troops with exceptional records. Training begins next week at Camp McCall. We are told the mission will be unprecedented. So is the unit itself." The next document was a training assessment from Colonel James Blackwell, Special Operations Command. Despite institutional skepticism, Wilson's unit has exceeded all physical and tactical benchmarks. These men have demonstrated exceptional night navigation, close-quarters combat, and mountaineering skills. They operate with a cohesion rarely seen in specialized units. Recommend immediate deployment to European theater for mountain warfare operations. Yet another document revealed the deeper story. A memorandum from the War Department to theater commanders in Europe, dated August 1943. "The experimental colored special service unit will be deployed for limited operations only. No publicity authorized. All achievements to be reassigned to conventional units after completion. No unit insignia or distinctive markings permitted. The unit will operate under the designation 1st Special Service Unit, with no reference to its composition." Catherine set these papers aside and continued through the box. The story that emerged was both remarkable and disturbing. A hand-picked team of black soldiers, most with college education, many with specialized skills in languages, engineering or medicine, formed into an elite commando unit in absolute secrecy. Their mission: to accomplish the impossible without recognition. To serve a military that had determined in advance to deny their accomplishments. Captain Wilson's journal continued through their deployment to North Africa, their specialized training in mountain warfare, and their transfer to the Italian front in January 1944. His writing was precise, factual, measured, the words of a professional soldier, but occasionally his deeper thoughts emerged. The men know the situation. They understand what awaits them after the war, should they survive it. America will remain as it was. Their service may never be acknowledged, yet they train harder than any unit I've observed in 8 years of service. They fight for a future they may never see, for a respect they may never receive. Their courage extends beyond the battlefield. The mission that would become their defining achievement was outlined in a briefing document dated February 10th, 1944. Monte Cassino Fortress controls access to the valley leading to Rome. Previous frontal assaults have failed with heavy casualties. Intelligence indicates a narrow approach from the north face considered impossible. First Special Service Unit will attempt infiltration via this route. Capture of this position would unlock the entire front. The documents fell silent about the actual execution of the mission. This was common in covert operations. But Captain Wilson's journal filled the gap. February 15th, 1944, final preparations. The men are ready. 28 soldiers against a fortress manned by over 200. The German advisors have convinced the Italians that the north face is impregnable. No guard posts, no machine gun nests. Their certainty will be their downfall. February 16th, 2 hours past midnight. We begin our ascent. Absolute silence maintained. Temperature 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Visibility limited by cloud cover. Advantage, hours. His next entry came after the operation. Mission accomplished at 0500 hours. The men performed flawlessly. Sergeant Johnson led the first team over the wall. Lieutenant Freeman neutralized the communications center before alarm could be raised. Davis managed to operate their radio equipment and broadcast surrender message to outlying positions in perfect Italian. The fortress commander's face, when he realized who had captured his impregnable position, is something I will remember until my dying day. 3 hours after securing the position, we received orders to withdraw before daylight. The 4th Infantry will march in. They will claim the victory. Photographs will be taken, commendations written. My men will return to base in silence. They complied without complaint. Not one word of protest. Sergeant Johnson actually smiled. "We know what we did, Captain," he said. "History might forget, but we won't. You are following along so far. If this story is touching you, help us bring it to more people. A like makes a difference. A comment motivates us. A share multiplies our reach. And if you're not subscribed yet, join our community." Now we return to the moment when everything really began to change. Catherine continued through the documents chronologically. After the Monte Cassino operation, the unit conducted 6 more covert missions throughout Italy and later France. Each success was attributed to other units. Each achievement erased from official records. By the end of the war, the 1st Special Service Unit had accomplished 9 major operations without a single mention in war dispatches. In October 1944, Captain Wilson's journal recorded a decisive moment. Lieutenant Freeman was photographed by a war correspondent during extraction from the Marseille harbor operation. The photographer was ordered to destroy the film, but Freeman tells me the man seemed reluctant. Perhaps some record will survive after all. That photograph never appeared in any newspaper or military publication, but Catherine found it in the box, slipped between 2 mission reports. 6 black soldiers in unmarked battle dress climbing from a small boat onto a dock. Their faces showed exhaustion, but also unmistakable pride. On the back, someone had written, "The Men History Forgot, Marseille, 1944." When the war in Europe ended, the unit received no parades, no recognition. They were simply disbanded, their records classified. The men returned to civilian life with commendations for routine service, nothing reflecting their actual achievements. Captain Wilson's final journal entry was dated June 12, 1945. Unit deactivation complete. The men have received their discharge papers and scattered to their homes across America. Johnson returns to teaching mathematics in Philadelphia. Freeman will attend law school in Chicago. Davis has been accepted to medical school in Boston. Their war records show only that they served in a support capacity in the European theater. I submitted a formal request that their true service be recognized. It was denied. I submitted letters for Bronze Stars based on their actions. All returned without comment. I have been advised unofficially to cease these efforts if I wish to continue my military career. I have one consolation. I have kept this journal. Someday someone will read it. Someday the truth will be known. Robert Wilson remained in the military until 1963, retiring as a colonel. His official biography mentioned nothing about the 1st Special Service Unit. None of his subsequent commands knew about his leadership of the elite Black Commando team. The documents trail fell silent for nearly 2 decades. Then, in 1972, something unexpected happened. A doctoral student in military history at Howard University, Thomas Jefferson Williams, began researching black servicemen who had received advanced training during World War II. During an interview with a veteran of the 92nd Infantry Division, he heard a passing reference to Wilson's mountain men who disappeared from the unit overnight in 1943. Williams was intrigued. He began searching for more information, but military records showed nothing. He placed advertisements in veterans' newspapers seeking members of any special black unit that operated in Italy. For months, he received no responses. Then in January 1973, a letter arrived from Philadelphia. "Dear Mr. Williams, I read your inquiry with great interest. I believe I may have information relevant to your research. During the war, I served under Captain Robert Wilson in what was termed the 1st Special Service Unit. Our activities were classified at that time. I have never known whether those restrictions were lifted. Before discussing details, I would appreciate clarification on this matter. Respectfully, Marcus Johnson, Ph.D., Professor Emeritus of Mathematics, Lincoln University." Williams immediately applied for access to classified military records related to special operations in the European theater. His requests were repeatedly denied. The information, he was told, remained classified for reasons of national security. Undeterred, Williams traveled to Philadelphia to meet Professor Johnson. Their conversation was cautious at first. The older man had spent nearly 30 years honoring his oath of secrecy, but eventually he began to share his experiences. "We were 28 men who could move silently, fight effectively, and most importantly, think creatively," Johnson told Williams. "Captain Wilson selected each of us not just for physical ability, but for problem-solving skills. Most of us had college education, unusual for any military unit at that time, nearly unheard of for a colored unit. Our first mission was considered impossible. Monte Cassino had repelled 3 major attacks. Thousands of Allied soldiers had died trying to take it. We took it in one night without firing a single shot." Johnson described scaling sheer cliffs in darkness, neutralizing sentries with only knives and garrots, and using the Italians' own communications equipment to bluff outlying units into surrendering. "When we were ordered to withdraw before dawn so a white unit could claim our victory, not one of us was surprised. Disappointed, yes, but not surprised. It was 1944. We understood America. We fought anyway. Williams recorded this interview and several follow-up conversations. He managed to locate 3 other surviving members of the unit. William Davis had become a prominent surgeon in Boston. James Freeman had served as a civil rights attorney in Chicago before his death in 1969. Theodore Parker was a high school principal in Atlanta. Each confirmed Johnson's account and added their own details. Williams completed his dissertation in 1975. The Invisible Warriors, Black Special Operations Units in World War II, received little attention outside academic circles. Military historians largely dismissed it as unsubstantiated. Without official records, the story remained anecdotal. Williams sent copies to the Pentagon, the War Department, and several military history museums. No response was received. In 1977, Marcus Johnson passed away. At his funeral, an elderly white man approached the family. He introduced himself as Colonel Robert Wilson, retired. He had traveled from California to pay his respects. Wilson spent 3 days with Johnson's family, sharing stories about their service together. Before leaving, he gave them a package. "This contains my personal journal from the war," he told them. "I've kept it all these years. There's also a letter authorizing its release to the National Archives upon my death. The truth should be known. When Wilson died in 1982, his family honored his wishes. They sent the package to the National Archives. It was received, catalogued, and placed in storage. No historian requested it, no researcher examined it. It sat unopened for 21 years, until Catherine Simmons discovered it while digitizing World War II special operations records. The journal and accompanying documents revealed not just the story of the Monte Cassino operation, but 8 other missions conducted by the 1st Special Service Unit, intelligence gathering behind enemy lines in northern Italy, sabotage operations against German supply lines, a raid that captured key Nazi encryption codes from a headquarters in southern France, operations that had shaped the course of the European campaign, all conducted by men who received no recognition. Catherine's discovery coincided with a broader Pentagon initiative to acknowledge the contributions of minority servicemen. In 2004, a review panel was convened to examine the case of the 1st Special Service Unit. Military historians were astonished by the documentation. The level of training, the complexity of operations, and the success rate of this unknown unit contradicted decades of official history about the role of black soldiers in World War II. In 2005, 60 years after the end of the war, the Department of Defense issued a formal acknowledgement. The 28 men of the 1st Special Service Unit were recognized for their extraordinary heroism and distinguished service. Posthumous Bronze Stars were authorized for each member. Only 3 were still alive to receive them. William Davis, by then 92, attended the Pentagon ceremony in a wheelchair. When presented with his long-delayed medal, he said simply, "I accept this on behalf of the 25 who aren't here to see it." Theodore Parker, 89, told reporters, "We never fought for medals. We fought because it needed doing. We fought to prove what we already knew, that the color of a man's skin has nothing to do with the quality of his service." The 3rd surviving member, Henry Wilson, no relation to the captain, 87, was too ill to attend. The medal was presented to him at the Veterans Home in Detroit, where he resided. When asked how it felt to finally be recognized, he replied, "Recognition is for the living. History is for the dead. I'm just glad the truth is known before we're all gone." In the years that followed, military historians began revising accounts of the Italian campaign. Museum exhibits were updated. Textbooks were rewritten. A documentary film, The Mountain Shadow, America's Forgotten Commandos, was released in 2010, bringing the story to a wider audience. But questions remained. Why had these men's achievements been so thoroughly erased? Why had their records been classified for so long? The answers came from deeper in the archive. A memorandum from the War Department to theater commanders, dated January 1944, provided the most explicit explanation. Recent intelligence suggests high probability of successful operations by specialized colored units in European theater. However, wide recognition of such achievements is deemed problematic for maintaining current military segregation policies. Commanders are advised to limit deployment of such units to critical operations only, with provisions for reassignment of credit to maintain established narratives regarding combat capabilities. In plain language, black soldiers might well succeed, but acknowledging that success would undermine the very justification for segregation. The system could not afford their victory. Captain Wilson had understood this from the beginning. In an entry from September 1943, he wrote, "The men ask why they must train in isolation, why their achievements will go unrecognized. I cannot give them the honest answer, that their success is seen as more dangerous to the established order than their failure would be. Instead, I tell them that elite units often operate in secrecy, that the mission matters more than the credit. They accept this with dignity, though I suspect they understand the deeper truth." In 2015, 70 years after the war, a permanent exhibition on the 1st Special Service Unit opened at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. Central to the display is a simple quote from Captain Wilson's journal. "These men scaled an impossible mountain in darkness. They overcame an impregnable fortress without casualties. But their greatest achievement was maintaining their dignity and excellence in a system designed to deny both. History may forget their names, but their achievement stands nonetheless." The exhibition includes the few photographs that survived, formal portraits from their training days, the single combat image captured in Marseille, and pictures from their civilian lives after the war. Teachers, doctors, lawyers, community leaders. Men who returned from war to build a better country than the one that had refused to honor them. A visitor's book at the exhibition contains thousands of comments, many from families who had never known the full story of their father's or grandfather's service, some from military personnel expressing respect and admiration, others simply expressing gratitude that the truth had finally emerged. On the 70th anniversary of the Monte Cassino operation, a small ceremony was held at the fortress site. No original members of the unit remained alive to attend, but descendants of 17 of the 28 commandos gathered at the north face, the impossible approach their ancestors had climbed in darkness. The Italian military provided an honor guard. The American ambassador spoke briefly. A simple plaque was unveiled, bearing the names of all 28 men of the 1st Special Service Unit, and a single sentence: "They came in darkness. They brought the light." As the morning sun illuminated the steep cliff face they had climbed, Robert Wilson's great-granddaughter read the final entry from his wartime journal. "I have commanded these men for 14 months, through 9 operations behind enemy lines, through conditions that would have broken most soldiers. Not once did they falter, not once did they complain about the knowledge that their achievements would be attributed to others. They served with a dignity that humbles me. America may not be ready to recognize what they have done, but someday it will be. And when that day comes, their story will inspire generations. That day has come. The box Catherine Simmons opened in 2003 ensured it. The documents preserved, the truth revealed. The invisible warriors, visible at last. Perhaps the most telling document in the entire collection was a letter from William Davis to his wife, written after the Monte Cassino operation, but never sent. It was found among his personal effects after his death in 2008. "My dearest Eleanor, last night we accomplished something remarkable. Something they said couldn't be done. 28 colored men captured a fortress that armies couldn't take. Then we handed it over and walked away. No pictures, no commendations, no recognition. You might ask why we do it. Why we fight so hard for a country that doesn't fight for us. I do it because someday America will become what it promises to be. Someday men will be judged by their actions, not their color. I may not live to see that day. Our children might not. But it will come. And when it does, someone will find Captain Wilson's journal. Someone will read about what we did here. And they'll understand that we weren't just fighting the enemy in Europe. We were fighting for something back home, something worth far more than medals or newspaper headlines. We were fighting for the truth about what men can achieve when given the chance, the simple truth about human dignity, the truth that eventually found its way out of a forgotten box and into history. End of narrative. This story, like so many others, was almost forgotten. Your support ensures that we continue to rescue these accounts. If you liked it, leave a like. Comment what you thought. Share with those who also appreciate real history. And explore our channel. There are more cases waiting for you. I'll see you in the next episode.